Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie paper and ink, and this is my card for this week's Color Throwdown challenge, and I'm using some new stamps and dies from My Favorite Things June 2016 release. And I started with a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper, and I die cut that with the largest die from the Blueprints 1 Die-namics set, and then I pulled some stamps from the new Funky Flowers set, and kind of arrange those on that piece of watercolor paper to see which images I wanted to use. And then I stamped them onto some post-it tape so that I could create masks for all of them. So when I create masks, it doesn't really matter what ink I stamp them in as long as I can see it. And then I trim right along the stamped line, along the outside, or right inside the stamped line, and doesn't take me very long at all. And with masks, I always save them. When I'm done using them, I stick them to the stamp packaging itself so I can use them next time. And I did the same thing once I'd cut them all out. Laid them out onto that piece of watercolor paper just to kind of give myself a visual idea of where I wanted to stamp everything. And then I treated the watercolor paper with some anti-static powder first. That just kind of prevents the embossing powder from sticking to anything but the stamped image. And then I started stamping the flowers with Versamark ink and then embossing them with Ranger's Super Fine Detail Embossing Powder. This is the finest white embossing powder that I have. And for these images, because they have such fine little details and all the little stitch lines, I wanted to use a really fine embossing powder. And I would stamp, emboss, and then mask off the image and stamp the next one, and just kept repeating the process until I was happy with it. So because I was doing masking, I had to emboss each flower before going on to the next one, because if you try to apply a mask before you've melted that embossing powder, you're going to end up with powder everywhere. So once I was happy with it, I'm going to go in and start watercoloring these, and I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. And I started with oatmeal and just scribbled a little bit in the center of each flower. And then for the purple, I'm using violet, and I just scribble with my marker in the center of each, or like close to the center of each flower, and then pulled the color out with my water brush. So I'm only using one color for all of this and just letting like the water as it dilutes it kind of creates a bit more definition. I didn't do any fancy blending, anything like that. One, because I didn't have the time, and two, because I'm really liking these markers for just simple coloring, and yet they're just so pretty. So for the largest flower, I applied the marker to the second pair of petals here, second set of petals. I just applied in more markers so that it was darker, so it's giving it a bit of definition without actually needing to grab any other markers. So the one color I didn't have for this color challenge, it was kind of a orangey sort of coral color, almost a peach color, and none of my markers were the right colors. So I scribbled on some bright yellow, which is more of an orange in my opinion, onto an acrylic block, and I picked it up with the light pink clean color marker, which the two together seemed to kind of create the color I wanted. So I'm just picking up the color, and I experimented with on scratch paper first, and then applied that to the flower, and then cleaned off the marker by just scribbling on scratch paper until it was light pink again. Super easy, it doesn't contaminate your markers, and you're good to go. And this is a great way to give you more options. If you don't have very many of these markers, you can mix colors like this to create new ones. So once I was done with that one, I went on to the last couple flowers, and I'm using dark pink for this, which I just love. I love this color. And I guess you guys would probably be noticing the theme if you've been watching my last few videos. I'm kind of obsessed with the whole embossing and then watercoloring thing because it's quicker and easier. It kind of gives me, it gives you a little bit of a well basically to hold the color, and you can go on to the next area without colors, muddying and bleeding into each other. It just makes things faster. Plus I love how it makes the embossing just pop when you add the color. So as a final little bit, I added some light gray around the lower right edges on the outsides of all these flowers, and then pulled it out with my water brush and faded it to white just to create a little bit of shadow and give it a little bit of something there. And then for my sentiment, I'm using this is the Grateful Die-namics from the Grateful for You stamp set that comes with this coordinating die. And I just trimmed down some Stick-It adhesive, and I applied that to the back of some black licorice cardstock. And then I ran this through my die cut machine, so I've got my Grateful die cut word with adhesive on the back of it, and I did this 3 times. So I've got 3 dies here, or die cuts here. I've mentioned it in another video, I am not having luck. and I'm probably not going to be trying anymore because I ruined my machine doing that. Backing cardstock with craft foam and then die cutting it. Everyone else seems to be, gets along great with that and has these great results. I can't make it work for the life of me. It just, nothing but trouble. So I prefer my tried and true method of just die cutting multiple pieces from cardstock and stacking them together. And using the stick adhesive just makes it like so quick and easy. So I just stacked all three together. And then before I decided to adhere it, I had to add one more little detail. So I pulled out the Spectrum Noir clear overlay sparkle pen and added that to the top of all these images. This does reactivate the clean color real brush markers. I actually could have watercolored with this instead of the water brush if I'd wanted to, but this was kind of an afterthought. I used a really light touch and I didn't squeeze the mark at all, so it's just a very light amount of glitter. And I did one color at a time because it's reactivating and picking up that color, so I didn't want to muddy and mix up all these colors on the flowers. So I applied it to each color, scribbled off the color it picked up onto the scratch paper, and I was good to go. And then I just turned the flashlight on my phone so you guys can kind of see. It's just a subtle sparkle, but so pretty. I didn't want it to be completely crazy. So sometimes I do, but for this one I didn't. So once I was happy with that, I peeled off the backing from this Grateful die cut and adhered that to my card front. And then I went on to create the base of the card, which is a piece of razzleberry cardstock from MFT. This is one of my absolute favorite colors. And I cut the sheet of cardstock in half, so it was 8.5 by 5.5, and then scored it 4.25 with my Teflon bone folder. And then I adhered the card front with a bunch of foam tape. And then, of course, had to add some sequins. I couldn't not. So I've got my pretty pink posh, clear, sparkling clear mix sequins. I just arranged a few on the card front, and once I was happy with how I had them placed, I started squeezing just a little bit of Ranger's Multimedia Matte Adhesive and adhered all those in place. And then for the inside of the card, I pulled a sentiment from that same Grateful for You stamp set that the die comes with, and inked that up with black ink and just stamped that on the center of the inside of the card. And then as a final little bit, since I had my Versamark and the stamps all sitting here, I just inked up the floral stamps again and stamped them with the Versamark ink. I'm not sure if you can see it on the video. I can see it as I'm editing, but we'll see if it comes through. You can hopefully see it in the final picture at the end though. But Versamark, not just good for embossing, it's great for creating a tone-on-tone or like watermark effect on your cardstock. So it just looks like I stamped these flowers with like a darker pink ink. So that finished off the card for today. I will have a link below the video to my blog post. In the blog post, I'll have a link to the color challenge if you'd like to play along. I will also have links to all the supplies used, so check it out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys very soon in the next one. Bye.